a foot dragging Elaine. The daughter heir wore a long-sleeved dress of pale blue silk, cut in the Tyron fashion and pulled low after some little discussion. A necklace of sapphires like a deep morning sky, and another strand woven into her red gold curls showed up the blue of her eyes. Despite the damp warmth, Egwene wore a plain, deep red scarf, as large as a shawl around her shoulders. Avienda had supplied the scarf and the sapphires too. Surprisingly, the Aiel woman had a tidy store of such things somehow. For all she had known they were there, Egwene gave a start when the Aiel guards glided to their feet with startling suddenness. Elaine let out a small gasp, but quickly eyed them with that regal bearing she managed so well. It seemed to have no effect on these sun-dark men. The six were Sha'in Matal, stone dogs, and appeared relaxed for Aiel, meaning they seemed to be looking everywhere, seemed ready to move in any direction. Egwene drew herself up in imitation of Elaine. She did wish she could do that as well as the daughter heir, and announced, We want to see how the Lord Dragon's wounds are. Her remark was plainly foolish, if they knew much about healing, but that likelihood was small. Few people did, and probably less than most. She had not intended to give any reason for being there. It was enough that they thought her eyes Sedai. But when the Aiel appeared almost to spring out of the black marble floor, it suddenly seemed a good idea. Not that they were making any move to stop Elaine and her, of course, but these men were all so tall, so stone-faced, and they carried those short spears and horn bows as if using them would be as natural as breathing and as easy. With those light-colored eyes regarding her so intently, it was all too easy to remember stories of black-veiled Aiel without mercy or pity, of the Aiel War, and the men like these who had destroyed every army sent against them until the last, who had only turned back to the waste after fighting the allied nations to a standstill during 3 blood-soaked days and nights before Tar Valon itself. She very nearly embraced Saidar. Gaul, the Stone Dog's leader, nodded, looking down at Elaine and her with a touch of respect. He was a handsome man, in a rugged way, a little older than Nynaeve, with eyes as green and clear as polished gems, and long eyelashes so dark they seemed to outline his eyes in black. They may be troubling him. He is in a foul mood this morning. Gaul grinned, just a quick flash of white teeth, in understanding of a temper when wounded. He has chased off a group of these high lords already and threw one of them out himself. What was his name? Turian, another even taller man replied. He had an arrow nocked, the short curved bow held almost casually. His gray eyes rested on the 2 women for an instant, then went back to searching among the anteroom's columns. Turian, Gaul agreed. I thought he would slide as far as those pretty carvings. He pointed a spear to the ring of stiff-standing defenders, but he came short by 3 paces. I lost a good Tyron hanging, all hawks in gold thread to Mangin. The taller man gave a brief, contented smile. Egwene blinked at the image of Rand physically pitching a High Lord across the floor. He had never been violent, far from it. How much had he changed? She had been too busy with Joya and Aniko, and he too busy with Moiraine or Lan or the High Lords, to do more than speak in passing. A few words about home here and there, about how the Beltane festival might have gone this year, and what Sunday would be like. It had all been so brief. How much had he changed? We have to see him, Elaine said, a slight tremor in her voice. Gaul made a bow, grounding the point of one spear on the black marble. Of course, I said. It was with some trepidation that Egwene entered Rand's chambers, and Elaine's face spoke volumes of the effort those few steps took. No evidence of last night's horror remained, unless it was the absence of mirrors. Lighter patches marked the wall panels where those hanging there had been taken away. Not that the room came anywhere near neatness. Books lay everywhere, on everything, some lying open as if abandoned in the middle of a page, and the bed was still unmade. The crimson draperies were pulled open on all the windows. facing westward toward the river that was Tyr's heart vein, and Kalandor sparkled like polished crystal on a huge gilded stand of surprising gaudiness. Egwene thought the stand the ugliest thing she had ever seen decorating a room, until she glimpsed the silver wolves savaging a golden stag on the mantel above the fireplace. Scant breezes off the river kept the room surprisingly cool compared to the rest of the stone. Rand sat in his shirt sleeves, sprawled in a chair with one leg over the arm and a leather-bound book propped against his knee. At the sound of their footsteps, he snapped the book shut and dropped it among the others on the scroll-worked carpet, bounding to his feet, ready to fight. The scowl on his face faded as he took in who they were. For the first time in the stone, Egwene looked for changes in him and found them. How many months before then since she had seen him last? Enough for his face to have grown harder, for the openness that had once been there to fade. He moved differently, too, a little like Lan, a little like the Aiel, with his height and his reddish hair, and eyes that seemed now blue, now gray as the light took them. He looked all too much like an Aiel man, too much for comfort. But had he changed inside? I thought you were someone else, he mumbled, sharing out embarrassed glances between them. That was the Rand she knew, even to the flush that rose in his cheeks every time he looked at her or Elaine, either one. Some people want things I can't give, things I will not give. Suspicion grew on his face with shocking suddenness, and his tone hardened. What do you want? Did Moiraine send you? Are you supposed to convince me to do what she wants? Don't be a goose, Egwene said sharply before she thought. I do not want you to start a war. Elaine added in pleading tones, we came to help you, if we can. That was one of their reasons, and the easiest to bring up, they had decided over breakfast. You know about her plans for... He began roughly, then made a sudden shift. Help me? How? That is what Moiraine says. Egwene sternly folded her arms beneath her breasts, folding the scarf tight, in the way Nynaeve used to address the village council when she meant to have her way, no matter how stubborn they were. It was too late to start over. The only thing was to go on as she had begun. I told you not to be a fool, Rand al'Thor. You may have tyrants bowing to your boots, but I remember when Nynaeve switched your bottom for letting Mat talk you into stealing a jar of apple brandy. Elaine kept her face carefully composed. Too carefully. It was plain to Egwene that she wanted to laugh out loud. Rand did not notice, of course. Men never did. He grinned at Egwene, close to laughing himself. You just turned 13. She found us asleep behind your father's stable, and our heads hurt so much we didn't even feel her switch. That was not at all the way Egwene recalled it. Not like when you threw that bowl at her head. Remember? She dosed you with dogwood tea because you'd been moping about for a week, and as soon as you tasted it, you hit her with her best bowl. Light, did you squeal? When was that? 2 years ago, come this... We are not here to talk over old times, Egwene said, shifting the scarf irritably. It was thin wool, but still far too hot. Really, he did have the habit of remembering the most unfortunate things. He grinned as if he knew what she was thinking, and went on in better humor. You are here to help, you say. With what? I don't suppose you know how to make a High Lord keep his word when I'm not staring over his shoulder, or how to stop unwanted dreams. I can surely use help with... Eyes darting to Elaine and back to her, he made another abrupt shift. What about the old tongue? Did you learn any of that in the right time? Without waiting for an answer, he began reading through the volumes scattered across the carpet. There were more on the chairs, among the tumbled bedclothes. I have a copy here, somewhere, of Rand. Egwene raised her voice. Rand! I cannot read the old tongue. She shot a look at Elaine, warning her not to admit to any such knowledge. They had not come to translate the prophecies of the dragon for him. The sapphires in the daughter heir's hair swayed as she nodded agreement. We had other things to learn. He straightened from the books with a sigh. It was too much to hope. For a moment he seemed on the point of saying more, but stared at his boots. Egwene wondered how he managed to deal with the High Lord and their arrogance, if he was so out of countenance. "I'm going to help you with channeling," she told him. "With the power." What Moiraine claimed was supposed to be true. A woman could not teach a man to channel any more than she could teach him how to bear a child. Egwene was not so sure. Woven from Saidin, or rather, she'd felt nothing, blocking her own flows like stone-dammed water. But she had learned as much outside the tower as within. Surely in her knowledge there was something she could teach him, some guidance she could offer. "If we can," Elaine added. Suspicion flashed across his face again. It was unnerving how he had changed so quickly. "I have more chance of reading the old tongue than you do of..." "This isn't Moiraine's doing. She send you here. Thinks she can convince me by some roundabout way, does she? Some twisty-eyed, sad-eyed plot I'll not see the point of until I am mired in it." He grunted sourly and pulled his coat from the floor behind one of the chairs, shrugging into it hastily. "I agreed to meet some more of the High Lords this morning. If I don't keep an eye on them, they just find ways to get around what I want. They'll learn sooner or later. I rule Tyr now. Me, the Dragon Reborn. I will teach them. You will have to excuse me." Egwene wanted to shake him. He ruled Tyr? Well, perhaps he did if it came to that, but she remembered a boy with a lamb nestled inside his coat, proud as a rooster because he had driven off the wolf that tried to take it. He was a shepherd, not a king, and even if he had called to give himself airs, it was no good if he did. She was about to tell him as much, but before she could, Elaine spoke up fiercely. "No one sent us. No one. We came because we care for you. Perhaps it will not work, but you can try. If we care enough to try, you can try too. Is it so unimportant to you that you cannot spare us an hour? For your life?" He stopped buttoning up his coat, staring at the daughter heir so intently that for a moment Egwene thought he had forgotten she was there. With a shiver he pulled his eyes away. Glancing at Egwene, he shifted his feet and frowned at the floor. "I will try," he muttered. "It'll do no good, but I will. What do you want me to do?" Egwene drew a deep breath. She had not thought convincing him would be this easy. He had always been like a boulder buried in mud when he decided to dig his heels in, which he did far too often. "Look at me," she said, embracing Saidar. She let the power fill her as completely as it ever had, more completely, accepting every drop she could hold. It was as if light suffused every particle of her, as if the light itself filled every cranny.
Hey, Cosmic Comet, how you doing?
Like fireworks.
Thanks for stopping by.
Let this much in. It was a shock to realize she was not quivering. Surely she could not bear this glorious sweetness. She wanted to revel in it.
I hope you're doing well tonight.
To simply lie back and let it roll through her, over her. She made herself speak. "What do you see?"
Oh, not going too bad tonight.
Look at me, Rand.
Can't complain.
He lifted his head slowly, still frowning. "I see you. What am I supposed to do?"
Hope you're doing well.
"Are you touching the source?" "Egwene Moiraine has channeled around me 100 times, and I never saw anything except what she did."
Oh, thanks.
It doesn't work that way.
Because I had lots of... Let me see if I can get the rest of the walls.
Moiraine, she told him firmly. She would be whimpering on the floor or insensible if she tried to hold as much as I hold now. It was true, though she had never before rated the Aes Sedai's ability so closely. It cried out to be used, this power pulsing through her stronger than heart blood. With this much she could do things Moiraine could not dream of doing. The wound in Rand's side that Moiraine could never heal completely. She did not know healing. It was considerably more complex than anything she had ever done, but she had watched Nynaeve heal, and perhaps with this great pool of the power filling her, she could see something of how that could be healed. Not to do it, of course, only to see. Carefully she spun out hair fine
probably
air and water and spirit. The power
let's see,
he felt for his own
there's that one right there.
One
The
touch, and she recoiled,
one
shivering,
that's
snatching back her
with
weaving.
the
Her
with the
stomach
fur,
churned as if every
the paint
muscle
that's
she
actually
ever eaten
leather.
wanted to come up.
That's
It
actually
seemed
hand
that all the
painted
darkness in the world
with
rested there
real
at
fur
Rand's
around
side.
it and real
All the
leather,
world
like
was evil and a
twine, I
festering
guess you
sore,
call it,
only lightly covered
holding
by
it
tender
together.
scar tissue.
So I can get a better angle at it.
Healing flows like drops of water on dry sand. How could he bear the pain? Why was he not weeping? From first thought to action had taken only a moment.
There you go.
Shaken and desperately hiding it, she went on without a pause. You are as strong as I. I knew it. You must be. Feel, Rand. What do you feel? What can heal that? Can anything? I don't feel anything, he muttered, shifting his feet. Goosebumps. And no wonder. It's not that I don't trust you, Egwene, but I cannot help being nervous when a woman is channeling around me. I am sorry. She did not bother explaining the difference between channeling and merely embracing.
Yeah, but I actually got that from my mom and aunt. I actually had to go pick up another one that I have over there that I didn't pack with me. It's actually the same thing. It's the leather with the hand painting, just on a smaller scale.
And it was an effort. Part of her wanted to cry at the loss. I am not touching the source now, Bran.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long my mom and aunt had
But
it.
that's just because you told me. He gave an abrupt shrug of his shoulders.
But
I started thinking about
we are part Native American too.
Egwene smiled
Or
triumphantly.
part Native anyway.
She did not need to look around at Elaine to confirm
But yeah,
what she already sensed.
it's
What they
definitely
had agreed upon
it's
earlier
got some
this
age to it.
You can sense a woman embracing the source, Rand. Elaine is doing just that.
Ain't no problem.
He squinted at the daughter air.
And the rest, that as far as like the posters, the tapestries,
Let's see what else we can
and
find.
all that is
Rand,
just stuff I've collected
embrace
or
the source.
was given
Embrace Saidin.
because
The words came out hoarsely.
my room's
They
like
had
it's
agreed
a
on this too, she and Elaine.
Halloween
He was
decoration in my
Rand,
room.
not a monster from the stories, and they had agreed on it. But still,
Cause I even got stuff hanging on the ceiling too. Let's see if I can show that part.
Do you see anything? She asked Elaine. Or feel anything? Rand still doled out glances between them, in between staring at the floor and sometimes blushing. Why was he so out of countenance?
Yeah, that one's a cool one too. I liked it. This is
He could just be standing
blanket.
there for all I can tell. Are you sure he is doing anything? He can be stubborn, but he isn't foolish. At least he isn't foolish most of the time. Well, stubborn or foolish or something else, I feel nothing at all. Egwene frowned at him.
It's usually more relaxing here when I have my other light. Cause I usually have either a red one, a blue one, or a green one. I like the blue one because
Rand's lips twitched. Clearly
the blue lights,
that, she told him crisply, was not nice.
what you
He
call
tried
the
to
blue
keep his face
lights
innocent, but the grin slipped.
gives the same
said you
effect
wanted to
of
feel
what a
something,
black
and I
light
just
would
thought-
do. As far as
His
like
sudden
some of my
roar
posters
made
are
Egwene
black light
jump.
reflective, or
Clapping a hand
some of
to
my
his left
tapestries
buttock,
are.
he hobbled in a pained
But the
circle.
blue light,
Blood
it does the same thing as
ashes
the black
Egwene.
light does,
There was
but
no need to...
it's brighter.
He fell off into deeper, inaudible mutters. Egwene was just as glad she did not understand.
Or I couldn't have it
She
just
took the
plain white,
opportunity to
like
flap
on the
the
walls
scarf
with nothing
for
on it.
Elaine
That would
and shared a small smile with Elaine. The glow faded.
I think that would
around
just
his arm.
start to
They
get
both
to me
came
after a while
close to
because
Egwene as they rubbed themselves
I gotta have
softly.
something on the wall to,
That should show him.
how would
About
you say it,
100 for one, Egwene estimated.
make it my own,
Turning back
to where I
Rand, she
feel
put
more
on her
comfortable
sternest
at.
face. I would have expected something like that from Matt. I thought you at least had grown up. We came here to help you if we can. Try to cooperate. Do something with the power. Something that isn't childish. Perhaps we will be
my
able to
last
sense
colored light, cause they're LEDs like this one is, but
do something, he muttered.
my last colored light I had
I'll limp for...
actually
You want me
burnt
to do
out, and
something?
I just gotta
Suddenly, she
get the
lifted into
funds
the air, and Elaine too.
to get it,
They
get another
stared at each other,
couple other
wide-eyed
ones.
as they floated a pace above the carpet. There was nothing holding
I'm
them.
actually need to
No
change them soon.
flows Egwene could feel.
I remember one house I used to live at with the old roommate of
He
mine.
had no right to do this, no right at all, and it was time he learned it.
The walls, the ceiling were all painted black.
Used it on the rare men they found.
So yeah, it was definitely.
She opened herself to
I liked it.
and her stomach sank.
It was all painted black. I put all my posters up in. But between the light I usually have, definitely
an absence that
definitely
shut her
pretty
away
cool.
from the source like a stone wall. She felt hollow inside until panic welled up to fill her. A man was channeling and she was
that must have been pretty cool. I've had that one for
but dangling
for a good little minute too. Most of
all she could think of was
everything I showed on the walls, I've had
she tried
for.
To shout at him, but all that came out was a croak. You want me to do something? Rand growled.
Everything's at least
a pair of small tables
a couple of years older, if not older.
And began to stumble about in a stiff parody of dance. Guilt.
Well, that tapestry I actually found
fire flared up in the fireplace.
Where me and my brother used to work at. It was called. It was a smoke shop that we had here locally. That was called the Looking Glass. But that's where I got that one. And right behind that behind that one right there, with the leather and the hand painted, is another tapestry that's a Sex Pistols tapestry. Then I have my Misfits one, Iron Maiden.
Its far end still linked to the
hey, Grandpa, how you doing, bro?
Do something, Rand said. Do something. Do you have any idea what it is like to touch sight?
Now I gotta actually go online and order them.
Seeping into me. Abruptly, the capering tables
because
burst into
I know
torches,
the shop's closed now where I used to work at, but
the mattress on the bed erupted.
They do have some tapestries left,
like
but
feathers falling onto the burning tables.
It's not one that I would necessarily hang up in here because they're all.
For a moment, Rand stared wildly at the blazing tables.
Some of them are most of them like biker type ones.
Along with the shield. Their heels thumped onto the carpet in the same instant.
I'm not doing too bad, Grandpa. Same old. Actually, had to cancel my Cash App because my Cash App actually got hacked.
The length of gold and silver cloth dropped too, along with strands of
which kind of sucked.
Metal, no longer liquid or even hot. Only 3 largish lumps, 2 silver and 1 gold, remained on
the place I used to work at where I also got this.
Egwene had staggered into a lane as they landed. They clutched each other for support, but Egwene felt the other woman doing exactly what she was
where
doing,
I got my dab rig.
As quickly as she could. In moments, she had a shield ready to throw around Rand if he even appeared to be channeling, but he stood stunned, staring at the charred tables with feathers still drifting down around him, flecking his coat. He did not seem to be a danger now, but the room was certainly a mess. She wove tight in the air to pull
it kind of sucked because
together, and those already on the
I get text messages whenever my card's used. And thankfully I had, I did have like $5-10 on my card, but all that's gone now. They did something where it charged. Took most of that money I had off on there. Then they kept trying to charge like way more money than I ever had on my Cash App. They're trying to charge like, it started off at like almost 700 charge, then it went down to like, they tried doing a 300 charge and a $100 charge, then like a $90 charge. They kept declining it, but they kept going at it.
And sometimes it does things I don't. I'm sorry. Perhaps you had better go. You just say that a lot.
No.
He blushed again and cleared his throat.
That's pretty much just a carb cap.
But maybe you had best go. We are not done yet, Egwene said gently. More gently than she felt, she wanted to box his ears. The idea of picking her up like that, shielding her and Elaine.
Yeah, that is some BS.
Of what, she did not know. And she did not want to find out. Not now. Not here. With so many exclaiming over their strength.
I'm not sure what it was. I've never really had someone try and do that to my account.
She had assumed they were as strong as
I didn't. It took some of my money, but
just been rudely disabused.
I guess it could have been worse if I would have had more money on my Cash App account.
Have done what he just had. Split her flows that many ways.
But yeah, they kept trying to charge and I got hold of Cash App and pretty much reported my card stolen / compromised.
Much more than twice again.
So they're supposed to be sending me a new
He
one.
had to have been weaving a dozen. He did not even look tired. Yet exertion of power took energy.
I don't have much to begin with. I don't need someone trying to take more
kittens he might
what I don't have.
If he went mad. But she would not, could not, just walk away. That would be the same as quitting, and she was not made that way. She meant to do what she had come there for, all of it, and he was not going to chase her off short of it, not him or anything else.
I think it's
Elaine's blue eyes were filled with determination, and the moment Egwene fell silent, she added in a much firmer voice, "And we will not go until we are. You said you would try. You must try." "I did say that, didn't I?" he murmured after
my pipe's chipped.
"At least we can sit down." Not looking at the blackened tables or the band of metallic cloth lying crumpled on
not
the
sure
carpet,
how that happened,
we led
but
them, limping slightly, to
actually
high-backed
got chipped.
chairs near the windows. They had to move books from the red silk cushions in order to sit. Egwene's chair held volume 12 of The Treasures of the Stone of Tyr, a dusty, wood-bound book entitled Travels in the
Actually
Aiel
chipped my
Waste,
pipe. I don't know how I did that.
Observations on the Savage Inhabitants, and a thick, tattered leather volume called Dealings with the Territory of Mayene, 500 to 750 of the New Era. Elaine had a bigger stack to move, but Rand hurriedly took them from her along with those from his chair and put them all on the floor, where the pile promptly fell over. Egwene laid hers neatly beside them. "What do you want me to do now?" He sat on the edge of his seat, hands on
they're
his
supposed to
knees.
get hold of me
"I promise I won't do
hopefully
anything
soon because I told them to charge that
Egwene bit
someone
her
made
tongue
on
to
there.
keep
They
from
took
telling him that promise came a
the little bit I had on there.
Perhaps she had been
wasn't me.
vague in what she had asked for, but that was no excuse. Still,
So hopefully
that
I
was
could
something to be dealt
hopefully
with
get that refunded.
She realized
It's
she
not
was
much,
thinking of
but
him as just Rand again.
That's almost
But he
$10
looked as if he had just splashed mud on her best dress, and was worried she would not believe it an accident. Yet she had not let go of Saidar, and neither had Elaine. There was no need to be foolish. "This time," she said, "we just want you to talk. How do you embrace the source? Just tell us. Take it step by step, slowly." "More like wrestling than embracing," he grunted. "Step by step? Well, first I imagine a flame, and then I push everything into it. Hate, fear, nervousness, everything. When they're all consumed, there's an emptiness, a void inside my head. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm a part of whatever I'm concentrating on, too."
That little $10 may not be
I've heard your father
much
talk about a trick of
to a lot of
concentration
people, but
he uses to win the archery
that's a lot of
competitions,
money to
what he
me.
calls the flame and the void. Rand nodded. Sadly, it seemed. She thought he must be missing her
Right.
and his father.
I get you on that kind of
Tam
it, yeah.
taught it to me first.
May not be
And
much,
Rand
but
uses it too with the
it's
sword.
still
Selena,
it's
someone
still a
I
little
met
something.
once, called it the oneness. A good many people seem to know about it, whatever they call it. But I found out for myself that when I was inside the void, I could feel Saidin, like a light just beyond the corner of my eye in the emptiness. There's nothing but me in that light. Emotion, even thought, is outside. I used to have to take it bit by bit.
All right,
but
definitely
comes
all
at
adds
once
up.
now. Most of it does, anyway. Most of the time. Emptiness, Elaine said with a shiver.
That little bit actually.
That doesn't sound very much
That's
like
my drinks for today.
Yes, it does.
That'd be my
Egwene
Mountain
insisted
Dew
eagerly.
and my
Rand,
energy
we
drink
just
for
do it a
today,
little
pretty
differently,
much.
that's all. I imagine myself to be a flower, a rosebud. Imagine it until I am the rosebud. That is like your void in a way. The rosebud's petals open out to the light of Saidar, and I let it fill me, all light and warmth and life and wonder. I surrender to it, and by surrendering I control
Alright.
it. That was the hardest thing to learn, really. How to master Saidar by
They
submitting.
definitely make their
But it
money off
seems
the
so
poor.
natural now that I do not even think about it. That is the key to it, Rand. I am sure. You must learn to surrender. He was shaking his head vigorously. That's nothing like what I do, he protested. Let it fill me? I have to reach out and take hold of Saidin. Sometimes there's still nothing there when I do, nothing I can touch. But if I didn't reach for it, I could stand there forever and nothing would happen. It fills me all right once I take hold, but surrender to it. He ran his fingers through his hair. Egwene, if I surrendered, even for a minute, saidin would consume me. It's like a river of molten metal, an ocean of fire, all the light of the sun gathered in one spot. I must fight it to make it do what I want. Fight it to keep from being eaten up. He sighed.
It's okay.
I know what you mean about life filling you, though. Even
They
with the
eventually
taste
come back to
stomach.
me.
Colors are sharper, smells clearer. Everything is more real somehow. I don't want to let go once I have it, even while it's trying to swallow me. But the
Alright.
rest, face the facts, Egwene. The tower is
And
right
what sucks
us.
about the
Accept
money
it for
that
the truth,
that I get, that
She
I'm
shook
a-
her head.
I'm
I will
on a
accept it when it is proved
fixed
to me.
income.
She did not
I
sound
get
as sure she wanted
disability
to, not as
once
sure
a
she
month.
had been. What he told sounded like
So a
some
little bit I
twisted
have
reflection of what she did. Similarities only
after
emphasizing
the first
differences.
and all that, because
Yet
most of
there
that
were
most of my
similarities.
disability's
She did not
gone on the
give up.
first is from
Can you tell
rent
the
and
flows of
bills.
color, air, water,
And
spirit,
a little bit I
earth,
have is
fire?
a
Sometimes,
little bit I have to
said
try to make
slowly.
it through the rest of the
Not
month.
usually. I just
But when
take what I
stuff
need
like
to do
this
what I want.
happens, it
Fumble
just
for it mostly. It's very strange.
it's
Sometimes I need to do a thing and I do it,
it's a
but
little
only afterward do
disappointing
I know what it was I
sometimes.
did or how.
But
It's almost like remembering something I've forgotten.
what
But
can
I
I
can
do?
remember how to do it again, most of the time. Yet you do remember how, she insisted. How did you set fire to those tables? She wanted to ask him how he had made them dance. She thought she saw water, but she wanted to start with something simple, lighting a candle and putting it out were things a novice could do. Rand's
Alright,
face took
definitely,
on a pained expression.
Definitely stressful
No,
sometimes.
he sounded embarrassed.
I just try
When
not
I
to let
want
it get to
fire
me
for a
just
lamp or a
because,
fireplace, I just make it.
yeah, it's
But I do
definitely
not
not
know
good
how.
for
I don't
my
really
blood
need to think
pressure
to
and
do things with fire.
yeah,
That almost stood to
that
reason.
and I just didn't get it this
Of the
way.
5 powers,
That did
fire and
happen,
earth had
it
been
sucked,
strongest in men
but
in the Age of Legends, and air
hey,
and
maybe
water
something
in
good will
women.
happen.
Spirit had been shared equally. Egwene hardly had to think to use air or water once she had learned to do a thing in the first place, but the thought did not further their purpose. This time it was Elaine who pressed him. Do you know how you extinguished them? You seemed to think before they went out. That I do remember, because I don't believe I've ever done it before. I took in the heat of the tables and spread it into the stone of the fireplace. A fireplace wouldn't even notice that much heat. Elaine gasped,
Alright.
unconsciously
I
cradling
try
her
not
left
to
arm
too,
for a moment, and Egwene winced in
but
sympathy.
sometimes
She remembered
it's hard
when
at
that
times,
arm
but
had been a mass of blisters because the daughter heir had done what Rand had just
alright.
described.
Definitely
Rand was
doesn't
just
define
a
me,
lamp
but
in her
then again,
room. Shiriam had threatened
I've
to let
been
the
without
blisters
money
heal
for
by
years,
themselves. She had
living
not
on,
done it, but she
living
had
homeless,
threatened.
hopping freight
It was
trains,
one of
and
the warnings novices were given.
pretty much
Never
throw
draw
my
heat
sleeping
in.
bag outside, and
A flame could be
wherever I lay my
extinguished
head
using
is my
air
bed
or
for the
water,
night.
but using fire to pull
So
the
I
heat
definitely
away meant
been,
disaster with a flame of any
yeah,
size. It was not a matter
living
of strength, so Shiriam
like
had said.
that too,
Heat once taken in could
not
not
knowing
be
where I was
gotten
gonna
rid of,
eat.
not by the
Sometimes
strongest
eating
woman ever to come out of the White Tower. Women
out
had
of places
actually
that probably
burst into
weren't the
flame
best places to be
themselves
eating
that
out
way.
of.
Women had burst into flame. Egwene drew a ragged breath. What's the matter? Rand asked. I think you just proved the difference to me, she sighed. Oh, does that mean you're ready to give up? No. She tried to make her voice softer. She was not angry with him. Exactly. She was not sure what she was angry with. Maybe my teachers were right, but there has to be a way. Some way. Only I cannot think of one right now. You tried, he said simply. I thank you for that. It is not your fault it did not work. There must be a way, Egwene muttered. And Elaine murmured, we will find it.
I definitely
Of course you will, he said with a forced
had
cheerfulness.
my
But not
past
today.
definitely had been a rough
He
past.
hesitated. I suppose you'll be going then. He sounded half regretful,
Definitely,
half glad. I do need to tell the High Lords a few things about
shit,
taxes
definitely
this
survived
summer.
a lot.
They seem to think
But
they
I'm
can
still
take as
here,
much from a
so
farmer in a poor year as a good without beggaring him. And I suppose you have to get back to questioning those dark friends. He frowned. He had not said anything, but Egwene was sure he would like to keep them as far from the Black Ajah as possible. She was a little surprised he had not already tried to make them return to the tower. Perhaps he knew that she and Nynaeve would put a flea in his ear the size of a horse if he tried. "We do," she said firmly. "But not right away. Rand?"
Yeah,
The time
definitely.
had come to bring up her second
Yeah, it's
reason for
definitely a
being
rough
there,
life.
but it was even more difficult than she had expected. This was going to hurt him. Those sad, wary eyes convinced her it
Definitely,
would.
it's
it
a
had to
rough
be
one,
done.
and definitely not the
She
safest at
snapped the
times.
scarf around her. It enveloped her from shoulders to waist. "Rand, I cannot marry you." "I know," he said. She blinked. He was not taking it as hard as she expected. She told herself that was good. "I do not mean to hurt you.
All
Really,
the stuff
I don't.
that's happened to me
But
and
I do not want
what
to
I've
marry
been
you."
through,
"I understand.
what can I say? I'm definitely
I
lucky
know
to
you're there.
be
No
sitting here
woman.
talking with all
You
y'all.
wool-brained idiot," she snapped. "This had nothing to do
What
with you
I've
channeling.
been through
I
and
do not love you.
shit
At
that's
least
happened
not
to
in the
me,
way to want to marry you."
what I've survived and shit, I
"You
definitely
don't
wouldn't
love me?"
wish that on my
He
worst
sounded
enemy.
as surprised as he looked, and hurt too. "Please try to understand," she said in a gentler voice. "People change, Rand. Feelings change. When people are apart, sometimes they grow apart. I love you as I would a brother, perhaps more than a brother, but not to marry. Can you understand that?" He managed a rueful grin. "I really am a fool. I didn't really believe you might change too. Egwene, I do not want to marry you either. I did not want to change. I didn't try to, but it happened. If you knew how much this means to me, not having to pretend, not being afraid I'll hurt you. I never wanted to do that, Egwene. Never to hurt you." She very nearly smiled. He was putting on such a brave face. He was actually quite close to convincing. "I'm glad you are taking it so well," she told him in a soft voice. "I did not
I don't
want
know
to
about
hurt you
climbing out
either.
people's windows. I
And
never
now
had
I
to
really
do
must
that.
go."
Yeah.
Rising from her chair, she bent to brush a kiss across his cheek. "We will find someone else." "Of course," he said, getting to his feet, the lie loud in his voice. "You will." She slipped out with a sense of satisfaction and hurried across the anteroom, letting Saidar go as
No
she
shit,
put
you
the
have a
scarf
couple
from her
times.
shoulders. The thing was abominably hot. He was ready for Elaine to pick up like a lost puppy if she handled him the way they had discussed. She thought Elaine would manage him nicely, now and later.
I've definitely
For
slept
as
in
much later as they had. Something had to be done about his control.
unique
She was
places.
willing to admit that what she had been told was right. No woman could teach him. Fish and birds.
Oh shit,
But
damn.
that was not the same as
Yeah, that would suck.
Something had to be done, so a way had to be found. That horrible wound and the madness were problems for later, but they would be dealt with eventually.
Oh damn, I'd be hopping out the window
Everyone
like that
said
too,
Two
but I
Rivers
had
men
shoes
were
on or not
stubborn,
in that
but they
situation.
could not match Two Rivers women. Chapter 8. Hard Heads. Elaine was not certain Rand realized she was still in the room, the way he stared after Egwene with a half-bewildered expression. Now and again he shook his head as if arguing with himself, or trying to straighten his mind. She was content to wait him out. Anything that put off the moment a while longer. She concentrated on maintaining an outward composure, back straight and head high, hands folded in her lap, a calmness on her face that could have rivaled Moiraine's best. Butterflies the size of hedgehogs frolicked in her stomach. It was not fear of him channeling. She had let go of Saidar as soon as Egwene stood to leave.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I don't like
was
leaving
what
the
she
house
wanted
either,
to
because
happen
shit
that
that's
had her
happened
trembling
to me.
inside. She had to concentrate not to finger her necklace or fiddle with the strand of sapphires
Less
in her
chance
hair.
of having to
Was her perfume
deal
too
with
heavy?
people.
No. Egwene said he liked the smell of roses. The dress. She wanted to tug it up, but he turned, the slight limp in his step.
I trust very few people, and
saw her sitting in her chair.
most of the time,
Eyes
I don't like
with
people.
what seemed very close to panic. She was glad to see it.
But
The
yeah,
effort of keeping
just
her
from
own
the
face
stuff that's
serene
happened to
had
me,
reached tenfold as soon as his eyes touched her. Those
it's
eyes
much
were
better if
blue
I stay
now,
home.
like a misty morning sky. He recovered on the instant and made a quite
Stay home,
unnecessary bow,
smoke,
wiping his hands once nervously on his coat.
leave the house when I have
I
to,
did not realize you were still flushing. He cut off, forgetting her
which ain't
presence
very
might
often,
be taken as an insult.
if I can help
I
it.
mean, I didn't. That is, He took a deep breath and began again. I am not as much of a fool as I
I
sound.
usually have, when I do
It
leave the
isn't every day
house,
someone tells you they don't love
it's
you,
usually with
Mary.
my brother, and
She put on a tone of mock severity.
at least with him, I
If
know
you
I'm
call me
safe.
that again, I shall call you my Lord Dragon, and curtsy. Even the
He's a
Queen
little
of Andor
brother,
might
but
curtsy to
he's
you, and
more
our
like the
only
big
daughter
brother.
there. White,
He ain't gonna
don't
let
do that.
nothing happen to me.
He seemed uneasy out of all proportion to the threat. I will not, Ran, she said in a more serious voice.
Right?
If you call me by my name,
Because
Elaine.
I do get bored once in a while, but
Elaine.
I have my
He
brother.
spoke awkwardly, yet
I'm
delightfully, as if he were
constantly watching
savoring the
movies,
name
or
too.
I have my PlayStation, and
It was
I have my
absurd to be
dogs.
so pleased. All he had done was say her name, after all. There was something
And that's
she had to know
all I
before
need.
she could go on. Did it
Definitely
hurt you
helps with the
very much?
dogs, though.
That could be taken two ways.
See if I
she
get
realized. What Egwene told
my
you,
dog Snoopy's asleep on the bed.
No.
See if I can actually get
Some.
catch
I
him.
don't know.
Let's see.
Fair is fair, after all. His small grin took
There we
some
go.
of the edge off of his weariness. I sound a fool again, don't I? No,
But there he is.
to me. I told her the pure truth, but I don't think she believed me. I suppose I did not want to believe it of her either. Not really. If that isn't foolish, I don't know what is.
But he's laying right there. Then my other one is laying more in the back.
I won't have to deal with that. Her
Yeah,
voice was
he's
calm,
a good
with
one.
light enough tone to
He
let him
definitely
know she
helps
did
out
not
a
really
lot.
mean what she said.
But he's
I saw a
Blue Heeler and German Shepherd.
A man in a funny striped coat, too big for him and sewn with bells.
Yeah, but he lays. Well, he's laying a little bit more on the side I sleep at, but the other pillows were usually where he lays in.
His slow grin was wider this time.
He usually lays right next to me.
The butterfly's wings flogged her for haste, but she occupied herself.
As you can tell, he's
she
out.
had to go slowly, carefully. If I don't, he'll think I am just a foolish girl, and he will be right. The butterflies.
And I got him
kettle drums now. Would you like
from
he asked,
one of the
suddenly,
shelters we have
and she
here.
blinked in confusion. A flower? Yes. Striding to the bed.
Out of all the dogs
he
I went
scooped
up to,
a
he's
handful of feathers from
well,
the
it's
tattered
him
mattress held them
and
out
his
to her.
sister.
I made one for the Majira last night. You
He actually came up to the fence more
much prettier, he added
more
hastily. Much prettier,
playful than his sister did. His sister kind of went up to, but he was more, I guess, excited about it. He actually responded to me better, and
she had to trust him.
I liked his color.
It was a small surprise to realize that she did. I would like that, Ran. For long moments he stared at the fluffy mound in his hands, a slow frown on his face. Abruptly he let the feathers fall, dusting his hands.
Yeah, I've had him for 2-3 years now.
Gift for you. Her heart went
I got him
out
from there. Yeah, he was
he had tried to
barely a
embrace
year
Sadie
old
and failed.
when I got him. They actually chipped him, but they also, unfortunately, since he came from a shelter, they fixed him too. But
could have a seamstress make
can't complain. I got me a little buddy.
A seamstress might make from a 4-pace length of gold and silver cloth, less than 2 feet wide. I'm sure a seamstress will have many ideas, she told me.
He's getting up there in years now.
Pulling a handkerchief from her sleeve, she knelt for a moment to collect the feathers he had dropped into the.
And the other one I have is
the maid's
one my aunt gave me because she couldn't
securely into her belt pouch.
Whatchamacallit,
well, this bit is
she couldn't handle him no more.
How could he understand
that
she would keep the feathers
toy
because he
Shih
had
Tzu.
wanted them to be a flower? He shifted his
But he's
feet,
actually
holding the glittering folds as if he did not
the
know
size of
the Majira
pretty much the size of a regular Shih Tzu. He's solid white.
I will give that to one
But
of them.
the only reason he got like that is because
Smiling,
when he was
she
a
saw
puppy,
no
he had real
reason to
bad
tell him she meant it as a gift.
sinus problems. So the vet that my aunt took him to gave him like, I think it was like 2 rounds of steroids. And it actually, yeah, I did. He's not a toy. He's actually a full Shih Tzu now. At least his thighs are.
Did he have to look as if he did not understand at all?
But yeah, my aunt got him when he was a little puppy from her boyfriend.
Her stomach seemed to be trying to writhe up into her
But
throat,
he's
her hands and feet felt like ice.
he's the old boy. He's about,
she was not going to
I think, like 10, 11.
He has to say more than like first. She almost giggled hysterically.
But she couldn't handle him no more, and I remember telling her,
not let him see me behave like a moon-eyed girl.
like, well, I've told her a couple of times when she first got him that if she gets rid of him, to let me know that I'll take him. That,
I am not usually
yes.
so forward.
And yeah, she couldn't handle him more, so she hit me up and asked me if I wanted him, and I said yeah. I've had him since, which has been,
to leave too.
Shoot,
I may not see you again for months.
Dang, it ain't been like
a tiny voice cried
3 years.
She refused to listen.
Pretty much as old as Snoopy is, because she gave it to me around the time that I got Snoopy, or a little bit before I got Snoopy. So
very fond
about 3 or 4 years.
Elaine, I am fond of you. I feel I want the scarlet spots on his
yeah,
cheeks.
they're both good dogs.
Elaine, I don't know what to say. How to... Suddenly it was her face that was flaming. He must think she was trying to force him into saying more. Aren't you? The small voice
when I first got him, I couldn't think of what to name him.
Rand,
well, the other one, the Shih Tzu, his name's Tuffy, but he also answers to Fluffy because my aunt called him Tuffy, and my mom called him Fluffy, and he answers to both.
Took the glittering cloth.
Yeah, but yeah, Snoopy, his name.
For some reason, he seemed.
It took me a while to pick his name.
Rand,
but
I want you to kiss me.
He got stuck with Snoopy.
It was out. Kiss you, he said, as if he had never heard of kissing before. Elaine, I don't want to promise more than... I mean, it isn't as if we were betrothed. Not that I'm suggesting we should be. It's just that I am fond of you, Elaine.
And what's cool about Snoopy is his eyelashes are actually all white too.
I do not know how things are done in the 2 Rivers, but in Camelin you don't wait until you are betrothed.
That's appreciated.
And it does not mean you must become betrothed either. But perhaps you do not know how. His arms went around her almost roughly, and his lips came down on hers. Her head spun, her toes tried to curl up in her slippers. Sometime later, she was not certain how long, she realized she was leaning against his chest, knees trembling, trying to gulp air. Forgive me for interrupting you, he said. She was glad to hear a touch of breathlessness in his voice. I am just a backward shepherd from the 2 Rivers.
It's a trip whenever
You are uncouth, she murmured against his shirt.
Whenever I was having a house sit for my mom and my aunt when they would both go out of town, I'd just go stay with them.
She put a hand over his
Our mom, my mom and my aunt don't live too far from us. They live,
she said firmly.
You could walk there like it'd be about
he nodded,
probably over a 30-minute walk just to get to our mom's house. But when I would stay there for a couple of days, I come back and Snoopy would be all excited like I've been gone for months. Oh yeah, you have a good night. Constant cotton. Comment. I mean, you have a good night too. Definitely awesome chatting with you too.
Asking for a kiss. Asking. She was not Barrelane. Barrelane. Perhaps Min had had a viewing. What Min saw happened, but she would not share him with Barrelane. perhaps she needed to do a bit more plain speaking. Obliquely plain, at least. I expect you will not lack for company after I go. Just remember that some women see a man with a
You stay safe too.
while others see no more than a bauble to wear, no different than a necklace or a bracelet. Remember that I will
stay safe out there
and
too.
I am one who sees with her heart. He looked confused.
He definitely does.
Then a little alarmed.
I can tell, like I said, when I'm gone for the weekend, he definitely gets all happy.
Do you know what you have not said to me? You have not tried to frighten me away by telling me how dangerous you are. Don't try now. It is too late. I did not think of it. Another thought came to him, though, and his eyes crinkled with suspicion. Did you and Egwene scheme this up between you? She managed to combine wide-eyed innocence with...
I don't know if he's lucky. I know I'm definitely lucky to have him.
Such a thing?
He definitely helps me out a lot.
Imagine we would hand you around between us like a package?
In more ways than I thought he would.
You think a good deal of yourself. There is such a thing as being overproud. He did look confused now. Quite satisfactory. Are you sorry for what you did to us, Rand? I did not mean to frighten you, he said hesitantly. Egwene made me angry. She's always been able to without half trying. That's no excuse, I know. I said I was sorry, and I am. Look what it got me. Burned tables and another mattress ruined. And for the pinch? His face reddened again, but he faced her firmly even so. No, I am not sorry for that. The two of you talking over my head as if I were a lump of wood. You deserved as much, both of you. He rubbed her arms with his coat sleeves as she momentarily touched the cigar. She did not know him to any degree, but she had learned bits and pieces on the edge of it. Channeling, she soothed away the hurt she had given him for the pinch. His eyes widened in surprise, and he shifted on his feet as if testing the absence of pain. Forgive me, she told him simply. There was a rap at the door, and Gaul looked in. At first, the Aielman had his head down, but after a quick glance at them, he raised it. Color flooded Elaine's face as she realized he had suspected that he might be interrupting something he should not see. She very nearly embraced Saidar again and taught him a lesson. The Tyrants are here, Gaul said. The High Lords are talking. I will go then, she told Rand. You must tell them about Texas, was it not? Think on what I have said. She did not say, think of me, but she was sure the effect would be the same. He reached out as if to stop her, but she slipped away from him. She had no intention of putting on a display in front of Gaul. The man was Aiel, but what must he think of her, wearing perfume and sapphires at that hour of the morning? It required real effort not to pull the neckline of her dress up higher. The High Lords entered as she reached the door, a cluster of graying men in pointed beards and colorful, ornate coats with puffy sleeves. They crowded out of her way with reluctant bows, faces and polite murmurs, not hiding their relief that she was leaving. She glanced back once from the doorway. A tall, broad-shouldered young man in a plain green coat among the High Lords in their silks and satin stripes. Rand looked like a stork among peacocks. Yet there was something about him, a presence that said he commanded there by right. The Tyrants recognized it, bending their stiff necks reluctantly. He thought probably they bowed just because he was the dragon reborn, and perhaps they thought so too. But she had seen men, like Gareth Bryn, the captain commander of her mother's guards, who could have dominated a room in rags, with no title and no one knowing their name. Rand might not know it, but he was. He had not been when she first saw him, but he was now. She pulled the door shut behind her. The Aiel around the entrance glanced at her, and the captain commanding the ring of defenders in the middle of the anteroom stared uneasily, but she barely noticed them. It was done. Or at least it was begun. 4 days she had before Joya and Amiko were put on that ship. 4 days at most to twine herself so firmly into Rand's thoughts that he had no room for Berylane. Or if not that, firmly enough that she stayed inside his head until she had the chance to do more. She had never thought she might do a thing like this, stalk a man like a huntress stalking a wild boar. The butterflies were still gambolling in her stomach. At least she had not let him see how nervous she was, and it occurred to her that she had not once thought of what her mother would say. With that, the flutterings vanished. She did not care what her mother said. Morghese had to accept her daughter as a woman. That was all there was to it. The Aiel bowed as she moved away, and she acknowledged them with a gracious nod that would have done Morghese proud. Even the Tyrant captain looked at her as if he could see her new serenity. She did not think she would be surrounded by butterflies again. For the Black Oddjob, perhaps, but not for Rand.
Ignoring the High Lords in their anxious semicircle, Rand watched the door close behind Elaine with wonder in his eyes. Dreams coming true, even only this much, made him uneasy. A swim in the Waterwood was one thing, but he would never have believed a dream when she came to him like this. She had been so cool and collected while he was tripping over his own tongue. And Egwene, giving his own thoughts back to him, and only concerned she might hurt him. Why was it women could go to pieces or fly into a rage at the smallest thing, yet never flicker an eyelash at what left you gaping? "My Lord Dragon," Cinnamon murmured even more diffidently than usual. Word of this morning must have spread through the stone already. That first lot had nearly run on their way out, and it was doubtful Torian would show his face or his filthy suggestions anywhere Rand was. Cinnamon essayed an ingratiating smile, then smothered it, by washing his plump hands when Rand only looked at him. The rest pretended they did not see the burned tables or the shattered mattress and scattered books or the half-melted lumps over the fireplace that had been the stag and wolves. High Lords were good at seeing only what they wanted to see. Carrion and Tadosian, false self-effacement in every line of their thick bodies, surely never realized there was anything suspicious in never looking at one another. But then, Rand might never have noticed, if not for Tom's note, found in the pocket of a coat just back from being brushed. "The Lord Dragon wished to see us," Cinnamon managed. Could Egwene and Elaine have worked it up between them? Not of course. Women did not do things like that any more than men. Did they? It had to be coincidence. Elaine heard that he was free and decided to speak. That was it. "Taxes!" he barked. The Tyrants did not move, but they gave the impression of stepping back. How he hated dealing with these men. He wanted to dive back into the books. "It is a bad precedent, my Lord Dragon, lowering taxes," a lean, gray-haired man said in an oily voice. Mylon was tall for a tyrant, only a hand shorter than Rand, and hard as any defender. He held himself in a stoop in Rand's presence. His dark eyes showed how he hated it. But he had hated it when Rand told them to stop crouching around him, too. None of them straightened, but Mylon, especially, had not liked being reminded of what he did. "The peasants have always paid easily, but if we lower taxes when the day comes that we raise them back to where they are now, the fools will complain as bitterly as if we had doubled the present levy. There may well be riots when that day comes, my Lord Dragon." Rand strode across the room to stand before Collindor. The crystal sword glittered, outshining the gilt and gemstones surrounding it. A reminder of who he was, of the power he could wield. Egwene. It was foolish to feel hurt because she said she no longer loved him. Why should he expect her to have feelings for him that he did not have for her? Yet it did hurt. A relief, but not a pleasant one. "You will have riots if you drive men off their farms." 3 books stood in a stack almost by Mylon's feet. The Treasures of the Stone of Tyr, Travels in the Waste, and Dealings with the Territory of Mayenne. The keys lay in those and in the various translations of the Kariathon cycle. If he could only find them and fit them to the proper locks. He pushed his mind back to the High Lords. "Do you think they will watch their families starve and do nothing?" "The defenders of the stone have put down riots before, my Lord Dragon," Cinnamon said soothingly. "Our own guards can keep peace in the countryside. The peasants will not disturb you, I give you my assurance." "There are too many farmers as it is." Carrion flinched at Rand's glare. It is the civil war in Kyrian, my Lord Dragon, he explained hurriedly. The Kyrianen can buy no grain, and the granaries are bursting. This year's harvest will go to waste as it is. And next year? Burn my soul, my Lord Dragon. But what we need is for some of those peasants to stop their eternal digging and planting. He seemed to realize he had said too much, though he clearly did not understand why. Rand wondered whether he had any idea how food got to his table. Did he see anything but gold and power? What will you do when Kyrian is buying grain again? Rand said coolly. For that matter, is Kyrian the only land that needs grain? Why had Elaine spoken up like that? What did she expect of him? Bond, she said. Women could play games with words like Aes Sedai. Did she mean she loved him? No, that was plain foolishness. Overproud to a degree. My Lord Dragon, Mylon said, half subservient, half as if explaining something to a child. If the civil wars stopped today, Kyrian still could not buy more than a few barge loads for 2, even 3 years. We have always sold our grain to Kyrian. Always. For the 20 years since the Aiel War, they were so bound up in what they had always done that they could not see what was so simple, or would not see it. When the cabbages sprouted like weeds around Emmons Field, it was a near certainty that bad rain or white water had struck Devon Ride or Watch Hill. When Watch Hill had too many turnips, Emmons Field...
Alright, everyone. I'm probably going to call into this live for right now. See if I can't lay down and get some sleep. I want to thank everyone stopping by and everyone who keeps coming back and all the new people that show up. Definitely appreciate all y'all and all y'all's support. Till next time, everyone, stay safe out there.